Hey guys, real quick, if you will make sure to ring the notification bell, that will ensure that you get instantly notified every time I upload a video. If you've already subscribed, thank you, that's awesome. What that will do, that'll show up in your homepage, but ringing the bell and selecting all will make sure that you get instantly notified when I upload instead of having to go check your homepage. Thanks guys. Hey y'all, welcome back to Tobacco Leaf Legacies. This is Cheryl. Look at where I am. I'm at another old house, and this is my Aunt Bessie's house. Now, we're not going to go in right now. Somebody else owns this. They've been kind enough to let me kind of walk around here and see some of the old buildings because there's some other stuff in the back. Might be able to go in later, may have to add to the video. We'll see, but that'd be down the road. But I still wanted to show you this house here on the outside. I was talking earlier with my cousin and who grew up here, and he was saying that he thinks kind of like if you saw my my other video with my great-grandmother's house, this one was originally built in the 1800s as well. Isn't it beautiful? It's beautiful. And there's other, like I said, I've already done some video, and so I'll edit it in here so I can show you what else is here on the property. This was a big property. I believe my cousin said 17 acres, and they paid $100 per acre, which in the 40s, I believe he said, that was a lot of money. That was a lot of money. But this is such a beautiful house. And I have loved it, just like I had loved my aunt that that was here. We had a lot of very cool conversations. I will tell you about those later. So let's get a little bit more filming in. Now, we keep saying that the house was built in the late 1800s. A lot of the tax records in the area didn't start until the late 1800s. So there are a lot of very old homes that all kind of have the same date as far as when they were built. But I remember my aunt telling me that it was an old home when they bought it. And so I'm thinking it could be 200 years old, which would just be amazing. They're saying right here that for the fireplace, that these stones actually came from here on the property. How in the world they did that, I mean, I would just love to know. And over here, kind of show you the windows here. Look how big these windows are, y'all. I mean, original, beautiful windows. Let's see, just for perspective here. Huge windows, so beautiful. I remember my dad telling me that when he was little, that him and his family had actually stayed here as well, with my aunt and uncle and all of their children. I don't remember details. I think it was probably sometime in the 40s. Maybe they were in between houses or something like that. I wish I knew the story. In this little area here, this was either added on probably about 50 years ago, or it was an area that was closed in to make it a room. I remember Aunt Bessie, you know, the last, gosh, I don't know, 15, 20 years that she was here, she spent a lot of time in that room. Now here, this is the smokehouse. So this was used to smoke the meats, it was used as storage, and then of course they had the little shelter areas on the side. Look at how that's built. Isn't that neat? It's areas like this that I just absolutely would have loved to have seen in the day. And while I have been seeing this for a number of years, it's one of those things that when you're younger, you know, you just don't pay attention to this stuff like you do when you're older. This is the pack house. Now, my cousin was telling me that the main part of this had been here, you know, it was built when the house was built. He thinks that the little shelter here that's on the left, that had been added on a little bit later. And what's interesting to note about this is that it's reversed from the pack house that we had on Granddaddy's property, and I just think that's kind of interesting. You can see, look at that cool old doorknob. Isn't that neat? You can also see that faux brick looking siding. Maybe it was a kind of roofing material that they used. I'm not really sure, but that was the same stuff that we had on the exterior of our tobacco barns. I remember that vividly. This is another one of those areas that, I wish I could have seen it 50, 60 years ago or something. Of course, I was not here then, but I still would have liked to have seen it then. When I was telling you about the rocks that were used in the chimney, you'll see the rocks that are under here, they were quarried the same way that the other ones were. This out here was one of the tobacco barns that they had. Unfortunately, this one isn't standing anymore. I believe my cousin told me they lost it in one of the storms or hurricanes that we've had. But some of it's still there, its footprint's still there, and so I think it's still important. That's a saw?
Saw. And heel. Throttle cable that came up here is part of that.
Now, did this saw something in particular, or just in general?
Trees.
Oh, okay.
There's a belt that came from that motor to here. The blade on this thing was like 2 foot diameter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And it, look at that, it still turns. Maybe.
That's cool.
Asha would not approve of that today.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, no guard, no nothing. You fold it up to a tree. There was a mechanism back here, but this was a handle. I think this bolt came out, this slid out, and just turned.
Yeah.
The blade had been sitting, this way, and it turned either way. So yeah, you were back here trying to cut a tree with a fucking.
My cousin was telling me about this one, that this one he thinks was a little bit newer than some of the other ones, and that makes sense. You can see with the brick and all that. You can also see the railway tie up there at the door. That was common back in the day. Granddaddy had used it on our property too.
Fired out here.
So you'd set the fire out here.
Fire out here, yep. Pull it through.
Then to dry the tobacco.
That's concrete. That's hand-formed concrete. You can see how big of the oven it used to be. And they downsized it, did something with it.
While we were here looking at this barn, I remember my cousin made a statement and had said, if I knew now, or if I knew then what I know now, I would have completely, kept this preserved and all that. And I, just remember thinking to myself, isn't it always like that? If we knew then what we knew now, all the things that we would do differently, the things that we would keep, that we would preserve. Oh. Life can be only lived going forward, but it can only be understood backwards. This area out here was the strip room. Our strip room was part of the pack house, but they had a separate area out here, and they also had the same pit area underneath it that we had, which put moisture back in the leaves before taking it to market. And I just love all of the tobacco sticks out there. Aren't they amazing? I wish we had more that had been Granddaddy's. Here you can see more angles of the pit. Now out here is a huge rock. that I thought was really kind of cool. And my cousin was telling me stories about how when him and his other cousins would play on it back in the day when they were little, how they would ride bicycles off of it and all that. And, you know, it's really common in the area. Their land is not the first land to have such a huge rock like that. There was a cow barn as well, and some other barns that unfortunately are not standing anymore. But I am just so thankful for everything that is still standing. I think it is just a beautiful piece of property, and I can't believe that I haven't seen all of these buildings before. Alrighty, y'all. I am back at my house to finish this video. We kind of ran out of time over there. My cousins do not own that house currently, but they got permission from the person that they had sold it to for us to go kind of wander around a little bit and hear about the property. And I just wanted to share a couple quick stories about my aunt. Now, I keep mentioning my aunt. I had an uncle too. There was Uncle Earl, and I don't remember a lot about him because he passed when I was young. I will tell you what I do remember. Buttermilk. I remember he swore that his health, his longevity, whatever it is, that it was buttermilk that did it. And that's just something that, you know, it's funny. Anytime I see buttermilk, I think about him because that was just his thing. So the couple stories about my aunt. I went over to, and I don't remember if I said this in another video, you know, because I talk about and share so many things. So if I have, just bear with me. But I remember sitting with her, and this goes probably back to the 90s, and we were chatting, and she was just such a joy to talk to. I adored her. And I asked her a couple specific questions. I asked her, does she believe in aliens? And she said that she did. She said, she's like, well, you know, I just find it hard to believe that we would be the only people that would exist somewhere, right? And I just thought that it was a fantastic answer, that she was very open to, hey, gotta be something else somewhere, right? Can't just be us. I mean, if we could happen, something else could happen, right? And so I thought that was cool. And the other thing I asked her was, did she believe in ghosts? And what did I get? I got a ghost story. Oh my goodness. So she told me about in her house, and this was, I guess, only a few years before we had this chat. So it's not like it had been 40 years ago when she was in the house. So somewhat recent. And before I tell you that, I had asked her, you know, after she told me the story, well, you've been in the house a long time. Had you heard or seen anything prior to that? No, just this one time, which I thought was interesting. But anyway, so she told me about, she was lying in bed one night, and where she was lying and kind of looking straight ahead was either down like a little hallway into the bathroom or something. And she said this black woman came towards her, and the door where she was kind of lying in bed, the door to the rest of the house was right there by her. So she said this black woman came out, turned, and went right into the family room. And I guess on through the house. And I asked her, I said, Bessie, like, what did you do? Because, I mean, come on, y'all. I mean, I'm very open and I want to see that stuff like that. But let's face it, I mean, it would freak you out at the same time, right? And so she said, well, now, the previous owners of the house, okay, they were not the first ones in the house. There was another family. And the family that was in there had at least one black woman, maybe two, that would help out. They were not a slave kind of person. They were, you know, they worked for the family and took care of the children, cooked, all that kind of stuff. And I believe at the time, because this is what my aunt called her, she called her a mammy. Whether that's politically correct or not, I don't know. We're not going to get into that. This is what she said. So she said she's lying there. So when all that happened, and I said, what did you do? She said, well, She just very monotone, very calm. She said, I just figured that was Mammy getting ready to go take care of the children or start breakfast. And so she says, I just went back to sleep. And I said, oh my God, I think I would have had every light in the house on. But I thought that it was a very cool story. I thought that it was very cool that she had that experience. I thought her response was very cool. She didn't freak out, nothing. She was just like, yeah, I just figured that was Mammy just going about her business, and that was that. So I just went back to sleep. So I thought that was kind of cool. I do love to share those two little tidbits from when I talked to her, because I enjoyed her so much. And I wish that, like with, so many other family members and stuff, I just wish that, I had more time to spend. I mean, how many of us feel that way though, right? We wish we had more time to spend with the older folks and talk to them and get stories and all that fun stuff. So I hope you liked the video. There were parts of it back behind the house with their, pack house and the little barns and stuff. I've never been back there. So, I mean, that was the first time for me, and that was so exciting. I do believe that is it for this video, and you know what I'm going to tell you. Time is precious. Carpe diem. Seize the day. I'll see you next time.